have to come back a bit. You don't want to be too optimistic.
Yeah, the ROI could get hampered by maybe, 12, 13%. What do you think? Oh, hey, what's up? Check it out. Dolf and I think we're on the same page, right?
For the most part, yes.
I mean, check it out. We've got 7 predictions of what you can expect in the economy in 2022.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. Yeah, it's one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
All right, Dolf, let's make it official.
Yes.
We've got 7 predictions for 2022 based on real estate. And I got to tell you, a lot of this comes from Forbes.com. We're going to tell you what we agree with, what we actually disagree with, because you've experienced some insane turbulence over the last 3 years. Your house is going up crazy in value, having a hard time actually getting a house. What's next for 2022?
Especially for people looking at getting started now. It's important to look at what's going to happen because some of you think it's been pretty stable lately, it's been rising, it'll probably rise forever. It may not. And others of you are thinking it's been really turbulent. What's going to happen? I shouldn't take any action until there's more stability. We've got to find out what's going to happen this year.
So the reason why I brought Dolf Roos in is because between Dolf and I, we've done billions in the game of real estate internationally all over the world. And today we're going to give you our fresh take on what we think is going to happen in 2022.
Number 1 is inflation. Everyone knows that inflation's on the rise, but few people realize how high it is. It's already at 7% and it hasn't been this high for 40 years. Now, most of you, including you, Kris, probably don't remember back 40 years.
I don't even know who you are.
But I've, unfortunately for me, have been through cycles. I've had inflation higher than 7%. We've got to figure out, is it here to stay or can we cap it?
Now, Forbes has an opinion on this, but I want to make sure that you understand. Inflation means that the value of your money is going down, and right now at an accelerated rate. So think about 7.9%. And what if it goes up to 9%? What if it goes to 10%? In 5 years, with 10% loss of the value of your money over time, you could literally lose half of the money that you saved your entire life. So the amount of money you have hasn't changed, but the cost of everything has doubled. So your money only goes half as far as it used to. And that would be a tragedy for someone that has spent most of their working life saving towards retirement or some big financial dream.
Yes, but Kris, only if they have that money in the bank, because you're right, the spending power's gone down. But if you've accumulated $1 million and you put it into real estate, and through inflation, the value of it is such that it's now needing $2 million of currency to express what it's worth, and your mortgage is still $1 million, you've created $1 million of equity out of thin air. So that is why true real estate investors love inflation.
And I have to tell you, the rich are getting rich as long as they are putting their money in real estate. We'll talk about that at the end of the video because there are some really easy ways to make that happen. First though, here's how Forbes weighs in. They say inflation will remain above trend during 2022 because of supply chain bottlenecks. But in the long term, inflation rates will gradually cool. And you know what? I'm not sure I exactly agree because this is making it sound like, oh, in 2022, we're still going to have some problems. But listen, it'll resolve itself. Inflation doesn't resolve itself in 3 or 6 months with a quick turn of a lever inside the government. This is something that can last for many, many, many years. Which means, just like Dolf was saying, you have to work towards a solution right now. If you're keeping money in 401ks and IRAs, those soft accounts, you're going to feel that effect of inflation. But just like Dolf said, if you put it in the game of real estate, then guess what? You actually feel the positive benefits of inflation. In fact, real estate investors, they couldn't hope for anything better than hyperinflation.
Number 2 is office spaces. Clearly, during the pandemic, the demand for office space went down. However, the office will remain the hub of business activity, but flexible work from home will allow many employees the convenience of skipping the commute for a few days a week. My prediction is that there'll be fewer offices, but they'll be smaller, and then as time goes on, demand will grow again and we'll get more commercial tenants occupying smaller spaces each.
We're definitely seeing a hybridization right now because like last year, I hired 100 people. And a lot of those people, they work from home. A lot of those people come in the office. Truth is, I don't need as big or as much office as I used to because we've got that flexibility. And right now, I think in the last 2 years, employers have become a lot more comfortable with allowing people where it makes sense to work from home as long as they report in, they've got their KPIs that are met, or they've got their critical drivers that they're driving.
Right, and they're still delivering.
Yeah, and companies have to have learned how to manage and watch that to feel comfortable enough with someone actually working from home. Listen, in the game of real estate, we can talk about single family homes, but let's actually talk about commercial real estate and what's taking place. If you take a look at this graph right now that's been supplied by Forbes, it shows you that from 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, we saw this huge buildup. And then you remember the Great Recession, it bottomed out. We were down there for a number of years before it started building up nice and steady. And here we go right up until the pandemic. We see that as soon as that hit, boom, commercial took a massive hit. But look at the recovery line. Right now, we're literally hitting nearly as high as 2008, right before the Great Recession. Property transactions will rise further in 2022 as the economic recovery gains momentum and commercial real estate prices will maintain growth. So let me ask you, Dolf, I mean, you're clearly the expert in the commercial space. Do you see that commercial will continue actually growing and being on the rise? Agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. I think this dip we see here is going to be an anomaly because of the pandemic, but overall demand is going to increase because for no other reason than the population is still increasing in this country. It's going to increase.
When property values go up, investors make more money. So whether we're talking about single family real estate or Dolf's expertise, commercial real estate, there's going to be a lot of winning happening.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what.
Number 4 has to do with senior housing, assisted living, 55 plus communities, dementia care, Alzheimer's care, the likes. The population of the United States, as in most Western countries, is still increasing, but the proportion of elderly is increasing at an even faster rate. The demand for assisted living in this country is going to increase faster than the increase in general population for the next 34 years. That's why our prediction is that for the next 3 decades at least, there's going to be tremendous growth in assisted living.
Now here's what Forbes has to say about it. The demographic wave of baby boomers and progress with the pandemic will fuel further recovery in senior housing and skilled nursing in 2022. And just like Dolf said, this is not a 2022 thing. This is something that will be on the rise for years to come because we have a known with the population of boomers. We can see what medicine, modern day medicine is doing, keeping them alive. And that means probably for the next 1 or 2 decades, that's probably going to be a very popular sector to be in.
I'm very optimistic about this sector.
Number 5, we're going to talk about travel. And Dolf, this is something that I love about you. We've traveled around the world. You've had a chance to visit how many countries?
It's over 80, 170 laps around the world. That's crazy.
That's pretty amazing, right? I'm 42 years old. I've taken my wife to 40 different countries. She wants to see 100 in her lifetime. We're well on our way. In fact, since the pandemic has been really kind of, if you will, coming to an end, it's meant that we've been able to book a lot more travel. In fact, we're going to the Galapagos Islands in a couple of months. We're renting a private yacht to go travel around. And so what we have to do is talk about, well, what kind of impact is this going to have on leisure real estate? What does that mean for Airbnb? What does that mean for VRBO? What does it mean for any type of real estate or hotels that are associated with world travelers?
And so many hotels have been taken out of circulation because of the pandemic. They've been converted into assisted living or even storage facilities, as an example with one hotel I was involved in Atlanta. So the stock right now is down, demand is going back up. I think there's going to be great growth in the hotel space coming up this year.
You know, it's interesting. My foundation does work in Miami, and one of the schools that we teach at regularly, right across, they have this huge building that is nondescript. You can't really tell. And my buddy, who's a big time investor, he sold his last company for over $1 billion. And he said, you know what that is? I said, a commercial building? He says, that's a ghost kitchen. And I said, well, what's a ghost kitchen? He says, guess what? When the pandemic shut down all these restaurants, they found out that people didn't value being in the restaurant to get their food. They got trained that the food through DoorDash could be brought to them. And you know what? You don't need a $2 million expensive restaurant for a kitchen. So these ghost kitchens are these massive warehouses with hundreds of kitchens supporting sometimes hundreds of restaurants, and they're making food, the same amazing, delicious food, for a whole lot cheaper than that level of restaurant storefront. Those are some of the changes that leisure real estate is experiencing right now. It's also going through some transformation, and that means that there are some investment opportunities for you if you know where to look.
That is so true, Kris. And here's the thing. A lot of these ghost kitchens were created because of the pandemic, but now that the pandemic is waving away, they're here to stay. People love the idea of eating that food, but they don't want to dine out all the time and get dressed up for that. They want to eat at home. This is a new trend. It is a new industry that's been spawned. It's sort of an unexpected consequence of the pandemic.
So I'm just about to make a sizable investment into a ghost kitchen right now, because here's what I'm fascinated by. Normally, if you wanted to get maybe a larger chain restaurant, TGI Fridays or Chili's or something like that, you need to go into a demographic that has a large enough suitable population that would want that. Well, turns out there's small and mid-sized towns that just aren't large enough for a $2 million restaurant. But you know what? They're plenty big for a ghost kitchen. All right, number 6, Forbes weighs in on retail. Like, think about brick and mortar stores where large companies sell things commercially to the public. And they say in-store sales have rebounded to above pre-pandemic levels, which will lead to a rapid reduction in the brick and mortar retail property vacancies. Dolf, this is an area of your expertise. Agree or disagree?
I agree they've rebounded, but I doubt whether it's to the level of pre-pandemic things, because people have gotten so used to doing things online. I compare it to the banking world. A lot of banks weren't available for in-house banking. You had to do it online. We all got the apps. We did our banking online, and they've now shut down branches permanently. So I think retail is rebounding. There are opportunities there. There are new retail chains being opened, but I don't think we're going to see total volume or square footage back to pre-pandemic levels. Keep an eye out on that space, though. In a niche market, it can be very lucrative.
And then number 7, let's talk about residential. I've done over $1 billion worth of residential real estate. I track the market like a hawk. I do know that we're missing over 5 million homes, and I know that we can't have a residential real estate crash until we satisfy with supply all of that demand that's missing in this country. So Forbes goes on to say that limits to new construction will keep both rental and home prices strong. In other words, we have a problem with how much real estate we can actually build. We cannot build it as fast as the demand is there for it, which means we're going to see prices continuing to go up. So from an investor's point of view, Dolf and I, guess what we're doing? We're buying as much real estate as we
can.
Right now, is this not like the golden decade?
It is a golden decade with an almost guaranteed success. There might be a meteor that hits and it destroys our theory, but right now the chances of there being a crash this year, 2022, which is what we're talking about in this video, I think is pretty remote.
Bottom line is that the real estate forecast looks really hot, not just for 2022, but probably for the next several years. My advice is find an expert. Listen, down below you can see Dolf Roos's channels. He'll be the first to tell you that one commercial deal can set you free and produce lifetimes of income. Just think about that for just a moment. Or on the other hand, there's also a link below for how you can partner with me in the game of real estate. And you know what? I'll do all the heavy lifting. I'll take you into the very best markets. I'll take that money that you saved in a 401k, an IRA, or equity in a home, and I'll show you how to intelligently put it to work. So if you want to learn how to get in the game, if you want to learn how to win at the higher level, all you have to do is click the link below, get in touch with Dolf and I, and let's start winning and playing.
Sounds good. That's the way to do it. You always want to learn from people who know things that you don't. If you're the smartest person in the room's in trouble. Always hang with people who know things that you don't know. That's how you go forward.
Time for another prediction. Will gas prices affect the price of real estate? Is what's happening on the other side of the world going to make real estate go up or down? If you want to know my thoughts on it, click this video. Now, am I going to speak or is Dolf and I going to speak? I'm going to say something and I say, that's right, check it out. That way it creates some closure for the intro.
Okay.
So I'll do the heavy lift on this one.
Okay, I'm going to tap your shoulder then.
Yes.
Okay, I am speeding.
I'm not sure about this.